In the next 30 minutes or so, we are really keen to show you our Tivian Leadership 360 solution. Before I get into that, just a very quick introduction to what we do at Tivian. We're a company that specialises in employee experience. We provide technology to enable our clients to collect useful data in order to improve the employee experience. But not only that, to use the feedback and insights to design communications and campaigns which then improve the employee experience of different groups. So we've got the capability within our technology to provide the full loop employee engagement, not just the feedback from employees, but also the ability for employers to provide communication and campaigns back to employees to transform the employee experience. And we call this Intelligent Experience Management, or XI. And in this short demo, we want to demonstrate how we use this philosophy in one of our key products, which is our Leadership 360 solution. And I'm just going to spend some time talking about that. Just to set the scene, over the last couple of years, there's been massive changes that have affected businesses all over the world and have affected employees all over the world also. The massive changes that we've all experienced have led to big issues such as poor employee well-being and burnout. We've now got the Great Resignation, where 50% of employees are thinking about leaving their jobs. And many of us are doing hybrid working, something that started during the pandemic, but for many of us is now the day-to-day reality. So these are three big shifts in the way that we work. And as well as impacting every employee, they've meant that there really needs to be a sea change in the way that leaders lead their organisations. It's more important than ever that leaders listen and empathise with their people. This is particularly important in times where we've got poor employee well-being and burnout. We need our leaders to inspire and empower us so that we want to continue working for our organisation. We see it as a great place to work. We really believe in the purpose of our organisation. And while hybrid working for many people has been a positive change, there is a concern that it has led to lower levels of connection between employees. So it's vital that leaders are connecting and facilitating collaboration between employees. So what all of these changes together have meant is that there's more need than ever for human-centred leadership. So what we've known for a long time as the soft skills like empathy, forgiveness, humility, are now absolutely seen as business critical skills. And a lot of research into this topic over the last couple of years has sort of demonstrated that everybody believes that getting leaders ready for the future is an absolute priority, but there is a concern that we're not quite there yet. So we've developed a Leadership 360 solution that really helps leaders to develop these vital people skills and enables them to drive engagement and high performance. It's a solution that's relevant and accessible to all leaders. Traditionally, Leadership 360 was only aimed at very senior leaders within organisation, but this tool is relevant to every manager or aspiring manager within an organisation. And it's based on a robust and validated model of key leadership behaviours. It's based on the transformational leadership model, which is known to drive employee engagement and high performance. And as well as focusing on transformational leadership, it covers these human-centric behaviours that I mentioned in the introduction. So it helps leaders to connect with their people, to collaborate with their teams, to communicate effectively, support and motivate their people, develop them, as well as deliver the tasks and the role as they need to. So just very quickly, a little bit about the transformational leadership model. It's one of the most renowned leadership models there is. It's got its heritage in the 1970s, and it's all about leaders achieving success through their people. So really inspiring their people, using their passion, their drive, their energy to inspire their teams to work together to achieve results. And there's been an awful lot of research into this model of transformational leadership. And the Tivian transformational leadership model draws on the significant body of work that's been done by researchers before us. The table that you can see on the right of this slide shows the work of two key researchers, Podsakoff and Carlos, and shows how our leadership model includes the same areas that these two models include, which have been very highly validated and are very highly respected by in academia. So the Tivian leadership model focuses on 7 areas: communicating vision, leading by example, fostering collaboration, inspirational leadership, support and development, fostering innovative thinking, and reward and recognition. It's used by many of our of our customers. These clients that you can see on the screen here all use our Leadership 360 solution. And I'd now like to demonstrate this tool. So what I'm first going to show you is the discover part of our 360 solution. So if you just bear with me, I will share with you the leadership solution. So just to go back to the front page, it's a self-service, self-driven tool that enables any manager to collect feedback at any time that's suitable to them. So any manager can go into this tool and start their 360. So they're able to ask colleagues to give them valuable feedback to help them to improve their leadership behaviours. So if you just click Start 360, you just get some further information about transformational leadership and what that all means. If you click on Next, you will see the questions. So I mentioned that our tool covers 23 questions in these 7 key categories of our transformational leadership model. So communicating vision, fostering innovative thinking, inspirational leadership, leading by example, support and development, fostering collaboration, and reward and recognition. And you can see that there's several simple statements under each of these categories to give us our 23 questions. So once you've looked at those questions, the idea is that you as a manager would go into this tool and invite different groups of colleagues to complete this feedback on your behalf to give you the feedback that you need to improve your leadership skills. So you can just go ahead and type in your leader's name. So my leaders come up here, type in my manager's name, press Next. And then I type in people within my team that I'd like to receive feedback from. So I can go in, find all of the people from my team, and their names will come up, and I'll invite them all to provide me with feedback. And I'd continue to go through this process, inviting at least 3 or 4 team members. I'd need 3 responses to see any data, then some peers. If I wanted to invite any external stakeholders, that would be possible, and any other groups. So that's the way of getting the feedback. I'm not going to go through that process, but it is very intuitive. And actually, I did, as part of the exercise, once you have invited everybody, the first thing you need to do is to fill in a self-assessment. As well as getting feedback from peers and colleagues and your manager, you need to complete the survey yourself. So if I just click on Start Assessment here, you'll see how easy and intuitive the questionnaire is. This is the same questionnaire that the people I'll ask to rate me would receive. So it's asking for each of the 23 questions, the extent to which people agree that I do all of these things. So the first of the 7 areas of transformational leadership is communicating vision. And I've got to answer whether or not I believe that I paint an interesting picture of the future. So I would need to go through and complete all of these questions about me. As well as those 23 closed questions, the survey also includes 4 open questions, which provide really valuable additional feedback. So it asks, what should Kate as a manager continue doing? What should Kate start doing? What should Kate stop doing? And that's really, really helpful in terms of an individual manager's development. And then there's an opportunity to write any further comments as well. So I won't go through that whole survey, but I think that the key part of this is actually looking at the results. So I just want to share with you the results dashboard. Just move that out the way. results demo. Here we go. So this is a demo version of the site which shows the feedback that a manager has received. So there's 23 questions. This manager has 14 areas of strength, 1 development area, 8 hidden strengths, and no blind spots. And just to sort of define what these things are, hidden strengths is where I as a manager don't rate myself particularly highly, but those that are rating me do rate me highly. So they're hidden strengths. They're not things that I'm recognising in myself, but my colleagues are recognising that. Blind spots would be the opposite. That would be if I rated myself very highly and my colleagues didn't rate me highly, that would be seen as a blind spot. I think I'm good, but actually I do have some development to go. So the most useful page of this dashboard is the detailed view. And what this is going to show me is all of the 7 areas of our transformational leadership model. The grey bar is my self-assessment, so I've rated myself. And at the moment, the green bar is the overall results of everybody who's rated me. If I toggle along, then the results will update so that I can just see the result that my manager has given me, clearly a very important stakeholder. If I keep toggling along, then I'll see the results of my team and then my peers. So you can see it's updating in real time. But I'll go back to the manager results because that looked quite interesting. You can see that while I've got lots of greens, which show that I'm scoring pretty well, even though in some areas the green bar is the same as my own rating. They're all pretty high, but in this support and development area, you can see that there is a gap between how I've rated myself and how I've been rated by my manager, and it's fallen below our threshold. So this is an area, a development area. It's been noted here. And this bar here will allow me to look at the individual results. So for the individual question results within each category. So you can see that on the 4 questions within this section, there are 3 where I should really be focusing my efforts if I want to improve my leadership performance. So this is an area where my manager doesn't rate me highly. I care about whether people achieve their career goals. So that's certainly something that I need to look at and see how I can improve. And we're really keen with this tool that we're not just providing lots of data to managers and leaving them there. So for every question, we've actually developed some hints and tips and a little action button. And what this does is it enables managers to immediately start to create an action plan to improve the way that they're managing. So on this question here, I care about whether people achieve their career goals. We've written some hints and tips to inspire managers of things that they could do to really help their team achieve their career goals. So what I can do is save that. And what that means is that it's going to go to my my action board into my inbox here. So these are all of the actions that I'm considering taking forward. I can review this in more detail, perhaps have a conversation with my coach or my team to understand and discuss what I need to improve, particularly in this area. But once I've come to a conclusion of where I need to focus, I'll move them along. It's a bit of a Kanban board here, so I can move this on to an ongoing action that I am committed to taking forward. So this is an integral part of the tool. The idea is that an individual manager will review their results, but will also then take action to improve. And the manager can then start to do regular Leadership 360 surveys, perhaps every quarter, repeat this survey and see how the results have changed. So that's the page that we've been looking at, the detailed view. As I mentioned, there were 4 comments in the feedback survey, and the comments are really valuable just in terms of giving you more clarity and more detail about where you need to improve. And like the previous page, what I can do here is I can toggle along to see how my managers scored me in each of these areas, or I can toggle along to understand what everybody said to me about how where I need to continue. So looking at the different results for that, it's still on manager, but yeah, so you look at the team and see what the team say I need to continue. So all of the comments are there for me to look at and to view. And then the question view is just another view of the data. It just gives you a more simplistic view, looking at all of the questions one by one, and just really looking at the overall score, so the score of all my raters against my score. So it's just a very quick and easy view of the results. The results also then come with a handy book that explains how I should be interpreting this and giving me lots of useful feedback. And they can, of course, be exported to PDF as well. As an HR leader, I'll also have access to an exec dashboard, which looks across the organisation and tells me as a company how we're doing. So which are the areas of leadership where we're really strong as a company, and where is it that we need to really support our managers more? So here, communicating vision is an area where we need to do better. And we can look here at the different rater groups, rating people in each of those areas as well. What it's also telling me is the extent to which managers have started to take action on the basis of the survey. So that's really important, that my managers are actually using this opportunity to create actions to support their improvement, which is what the tool's all about. So that was just a very quick overview of the Discover part of our platform for Leadership 360. And I hope that's been helpful. What I think it would be good to do now is to show you the other part of our full loop solution, which is Communicate XI.
So thank you, Kate. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about what that other piece of our solution looks like. We all understand, I think there's a widespread consensus that it's really critical to gather data in order to inform your programs. But for organizations to leverage that data and further a culture of accountability, they have to be able to find ways of measuring and supporting their employees on executing on those recommended actions that they get from the data collection. And then they need to take it a step further and be able to measure the results of those actions. And that's where the Communicate XI piece of the Tivian tool for leadership comes in. It enables organizations to identify the programs that will make the biggest impact based on their data results, and then intelligently personalize and segment the audiences for those programs so they can push out the information that is most relevant to their different employee audiences based on the data that they've gathered. And a bit about the methodology behind how we've structured the Communicate tool. Communicate XI is designed to bring the power of multi-channel marketing automation to internal communications. We recognize that there's been huge progress in the consumer world and in the external marketing world, where we've moved from analog products to digital products to really a campaign and experience-based engagement approach. Whereas internal communications have kind of been stuck. Maybe we got as far as digital by sending email, but we haven't made it that next step into truly engaging content that's pushed out in bite-sized pieces and structured in kind of an informational arc like a campaign might be. And that's how we've structured the educational materials within Communicate XI. They're designed to engage employees across the life cycle of a topic in bite-sized pieces that people can digest. We know from adult learning theory that folks need to hear information multiple times before it sinks in. We know that people tune out from video-based content after about 1 minute and 30 seconds, then we have a 90% drop-off in viewership. So we need to make sure that when we're pushing out educational material, we're doing it in a way that's really going to engage our employees and be effective. And this has really been shown effective in recent times. Gartner reported in 2020 that organizations that embrace a personalized and consumer-centric approach to employee experience increase the average employee's performance by 17%. So that's why it's critical to use the data that you've collected to ensure that you are personalizing that employee experience. You're not sending out one-size-fits-all leadership content. You're not talking about mission, vision, and values to employees who scored really high in communicating vision and in fact would be much better served by information on how to effectively run performance management conversations. We know that when you're pushing out one-size-fits-all content to your employees, they're going to stop listening to you. So We want to reach employees where they are. We have the capacity to communicate across multiple channels so that we're reaching employees in any sort of environment. In a manufacturing or retail environment, we might need to reach a lot of deskless employees. We might know for a fact that folks communicate more over Slack than over email. And we want to be able to push out this content that we want our employees to engage with in any way that's going to best work for them. We don't want to make our employees bored. We want them to be able to engage at their own rate through self-guided content experiences with a variety of short-form content that will really inspire them to engage with what we want them to learn. And then, of course, we need to automate and measure. It's not constructive to push out programs if you don't know if they're working. You have to be able to see which messaging gets employees to click, which content gets employees to download it, gets employees to watch to the end of the video. And then you need to be able to measure again by collecting fresh data to see if you've managed to move the needle by pushing out all of that information. So now we'll go ahead and jump into the Communicate XI tool so you can take a look at what it will actually look like to connect the dots between the data collection piece and the communication piece. So when you log in, you'll be able to see all of your active communications campaigns right here on your home screen. So it's really easy to archive things that are out of date and to find what you need to use right now. If I'm working with leadership data, then there are a few target areas that I'm probably going to be looking at. I'm probably going to be looking at mission, vision, and values education for some folks, feedback and coaching education for some folks, perhaps unconscious bias education for some folks, and performance management success for others. And again, the beauty of this tool is that I don't have to send all of these educational tools to everyone. I can segment based on the results I've gotten from those the Leadership 360 survey. And the way that you're able to do that as an HR professional is by exporting your data from your survey results across all of your managers, and you can use that to create audiences. So if there was a cohort of my managers who scored really poorly in the area of communicates vision effectively to employees, then I might think that maybe that's because they don't really understand the mission, vision, and values of the company themselves, and it might be useful for them to get a refresher on that. However, I don't want to send that to everybody because some folks are probably really up to date on that. But I can create a new audience. We have the ability to either integrate directly with your HRIS system through an open API, or you can upload CSV files if you don't elect to set up that integration, or if you need to add a filter that is not present in your HRIS system in order to create a specialized audience. So in this case, if you aren't going to be able to reflect in your HRIS system which managers need mission, vision, values education, then you could export from your Leadership 360 results which managers chose communicating vision as an action item for themselves. And you could upload that CSV information to create a sub-audience of mission, vision, values managers. Then you can schedule a campaign across a variety of channels to push out to either content created by us here at Tivian and configured to reflect your branding, your program details, your culture and your voice, or you can upload your own content into the platform so that you can push that out to your employees. Most of our users do a combination. They use some of our content, which comes across a variety of short forms, including videos that range from about 45 seconds to 2 minutes, as well as PDFs, infographics, timelines, things like that. And then a lot of folks will also upload some of their own internally created content. So it's a great way to create a one-size-fits-all, or a one-size-captures-all rather, location for your content relating to different educational areas. From there, you can send out content to that audience you've identified in a variety of different formats. This one is set up as an email, fully configurable with branding, brand colors, You decide on all of the language, subject, email body, call to action button. You determine the destination of the content, which can either be to content you've uploaded to the content experience, or it can be an external link if there's, for example, a webinar you'd like your employees to participate in, or another organization that has great content on this particular educational area that you want folks to visit. You can decide where the email goes. You can also choose not to have a call to action if you just need to send out a regular communication saying something along the lines of, hey, thanks so much for filling out our Leadership 3, for taking the time to participate in the Leadership 360 process. You can add any amount of content here and schedule it to automatically go out at the cadence of your choosing. We have push text messaging if you have texting as an option for how to communicate with your employees. You can embed web banners on your intranet sites. And then if you have a Slack or a Teams integration set up, you can also configure Slack and Teams messages. So based on the results that you've gotten, you can set up employees to go through a number of different educational journeys. You might decide that you want to send out just kind of 3 quick messages on mission, vision, and values, just as a refresher for those folks who really scored poorly in that area. Then you might have noticed that really all of your managers got low marks on providing feedback. And so you could click into your feedback and coaching content area, double check the content that you've got set up there. You might decide that you don't need some of this lower level content published anymore. You know that you covered that last year, so you could hide that for your employees, but you want them to get some content on what is coaching, what is feedback, what is your responsibility and your role in feedback, what is our check-in process. So you want a pretty lengthy campaign here. You can go right on through. Again, configure those audiences. Maybe the audience that got the mission, vision, values coaching doesn't need the feedback coaching. Maybe they do. You can create a custom audience of all managers, new managers, people who have been promoted to manager within the last 90 days, or based on the export you did from your Leadership 360 data collection, you could create an audience of just managers who selected giving feedback as an action item that they want to work on. You can right size that campaign out here. Maybe this is way too many messages. You don't think that they need some of the lower level content, so you're going to go ahead and pause delivery on these messages because you don't think that those need to be included at this time. But definitely giving tough feedback, you want to make sure that that goes out, because a lot of the feedback from the survey indicated that managers are uncomfortable giving tough feedback and teams don't feel like they're getting enough constructive feedback. So it's really easy to customize these campaigns based on the needs of your audience at the moment. You don't have to delete things. You can keep it here for yourself for future reference, because we know how difficult it is, right? When you've gone through the whole process of creating messaging and getting that approved and all of that, you don't just want to delete messages you don't need to use right now. So that's why we have that pause delivery feature, and you can see it really clearly here in the timeline. You can always reschedule your dates. And you can also change channels. Maybe last time you sent this message out, you realized that it got a lot more engagement with some of the follow-up messaging. Like you want to send the first messages through email, but the follow-up messaging got better engagement when you sent it to an all managers Slack channel. So you can always change the content type in the dropdown of the message. And so then again, you don't lose that messaging that you've worked so hard to create. You can also add message variations, which can include content type. So maybe I want to send an email, but I also know that I have some managers that aren't at their desks very often, and I might want to put up a poster in some of the manager only areas of like in an office or something like that. I could add a poster, and that will automatically duplicate the messaging in an email as well as in a poster that I could print and hang, or that I could display on a digital display screen. folks here can choose to visit a site, or they can scan a QR code, or they can text to engage. So the key with these campaigns is we always want to make sure we're providing folks with lots of ways to engage with the content. Now, as an HR leader, it can be really overwhelming to be running as many campaigns as they are, and we know that in addition to these manager development campaigns, they might be running additional campaigns, and we want to be really mindful of how much information we're giving our employees on any given day. And this is where our communication planner feature comes in. When you're running multiple campaigns, you need to be able to see at a glance which messages are going out to which audiences on which days. So if I notice, oh gosh, we already were doing some compensation training for managers, and those messages are going out on Mondays, then I'm going to want to make sure that any of the messages that I schedule for these leadership campaigns are going out on a different day of the week and are paced effectively so that folks aren't being overwhelmed with information, because we know that's one of the top complaints we get from employees. I just get so much information internally. In addition to the dozens to hundreds of emails I have to respond to for my role, I can't keep track of it all. So we want to make sure that it's really easy to see which audiences are getting which messages on which days. You can filter by audience right here. So I might see, okay, people managers are already getting messages on this day. So I want to make sure that I'm not sending another people managers message that day. And then finally, we need to be able to see the engagement with all of these messages that we're sending out. And that's where our analytics come in. The filters of your analytics, you can filter by any of the existing categories that you have applied. So if this is an HRIS integration, it can be based on any of the filters that you have available in your HRIS system. If you've updated and uploaded an additional CSV to provide some additional filters, those will also appear here. So they're pretty minimal available in this demo site that I have, but we have customers who have 15 to 20 filters on a regular basis that they use to really drill down on that data. Furthermore, the data from your communications can be exported and integrated with the data from your surveys and your HRIS system. So you can get a really sophisticated and holistic picture of that 360 feedback that you're engaging with here. So the initial leadership survey, the campaigns that were sent out to address the feedback from that survey, and any follow-up data that you collect when you send out your next quarterly Leadership 360 surveys. You can click down here into emails opened, how many unique users you reached, engaged views of content, which counts as videos that were viewed more than halfway, or digital documents that were opened, and then the actions taken, which were the clicks on those call to action buttons that you can have in your email as well as at the end of content. So if, for example, you sent out a campaign on coaching boot camp to your managers, you want them to click through and check out a guide to coaching. And then after that, you want to ask how comfortable they'd be feeling coaching someone at work, or maybe you decide that what you really want to do then is send them out to Workday so that they can make sure that they have scheduled coachings with all of their direct reports upcoming. They can add a call to action button here and link to Workday. That once the manager has viewed that piece of content, they can click right to the site you want them to go to and finish the action. We want to eliminate as many opportunities for losing the thread as we possibly can. So that's what you're measuring when you check out the actions taken, and you can view that by content. So maybe I'm seeing here, hey, man, I got a lot of clicks on the call to action button after giving peer feedback, but way fewer for coaching roles and responsibilities. Then I can go back and review, hey, what language did I put on the button? What did the link go to? How did I push out the content? It really lets you process the data and make better decisions about how to reach the people you need to reach. So the idea here is, now that you've finished educating your employees based on the results of the most recent data that you collected, it's time to measure again. You can go kind of back to the beginning and push back out another one of the Leadership 360 surveys that we initially demoed, gather a fresh self-reflection from all of your managers, gather fresh data from their teams, and then you can integrate that data with your communications data and your HRIS data to get a full picture of how effective your program is.